Yeah.
Good evening. Welcome to the July 14th, 2025 Town of Ithaca Board meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag, United States, to the republic which stands under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
We have no members of the board here, and I do not believe there are any members of the public on Zoom who want to speak to the board. Is that all right? No one's waiting to. Okay. Okay, then we'll just dive right in. We'll start with what's number 3 on your agenda. It's setting several public hearings. Just note that it should be chapter 175. I think all the corrections that I might note are on the files on your computer. So we are setting public hearings for repealing chapter 175 lock boxes. That's now repetitive. Amending chapter 18, notification of defects. Amending chapter 270 for zoning regarding short-term rental uses and regulations conservation zone. And we are setting a public hearing to adopt the preliminary 2026 budget for the Southern Cuyahoga Lake Intermunicipal Water Commission final 2026 budget. Just for your information, in terms of the Bolton Point budget, it is a 5.5% increase over the current year. And then remember, down the road, we will have to decide what the water rate increase is that the town will set, but we'll deal with that at a later time. Would someone like to move the resolution setting these public?
I'll move the resolution. Is there a time? Time for the hearings or no? We need to.
Oh, it's August 11th. It's on the resolution. Got it. Rich moves. Is there a second?
A second.
And any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Unanimous.
Hey, Rob, and just note, there's an error in the resolution. It says August 11th, 2026.
We will make that change.
Not,
Is that, Rich, is that what you were pointing out?
Yeah, definitely.
sorry.
Okay. Moving on to number 4. So there's no action tonight. You have been hearing us talk about working with the city on a joint historic preservation program that would involve one ILPC for both the city and the town, and an MOU charting out the agreement between the city and the town. And so there's a memo from CJ, which just gives you sort of a timeline for some next steps. We're anticipating the public hearing to be in, I believe, September now, right?
Yep.
Because we want to have plenty of time for outreach and education before there's a public hearing so that members of the public can really fully understand and ask questions ahead of time. Brian McCracken will be doing some of that education, I think some of it by Zoom. He actually had done one couple of years ago when we thought we were moving forward on this rather quickly. So you have the ordinance was sent out for you to look at. It's been reviewed by legal counsel, both for the city and by Susan Brock. What you don't have yet is the MOU. I believe that we're just working on some final touches to the MOU, but I'll just mention a few things that will be in the MOU. The term will start once it's passed and will end on December 31st, 2027. It allows for automatic renewals. We don't know yet whether for 2 or 3 year terms, unless a party gives notice of non-renewal at least 1 year before renewal date. It services to provide, it contracts with historic preservation staff that the city has described in the ILPC law. The cost to the town would be, of course, prorated, but $30,000 per year. And then also $30,000 for 2026. And then 2027 in each renewal year, payments escalated by a CPI increase each year. The city will bill us each January. Termination by other party without cause upon 1 year's notice. And we're still working out some of the liability and indemnity language. So I know Susan's been working with that, I'm not sure with Victor, but I know Susan's been working with Victor. Okay. So I think we're fairly close, and we will, include that in whenever we can, but know that we're not actually going to take any action until September to give the public and you a chance to look at the MOU and the ordinance. So CJ, is there anything else, anything you want to highlight that was in your memo?
Just that we've been working diligently towards getting to this final language, and we're excited to be working with the city. So we have a lot of notable historic properties in the town that we would like to move towards protecting.
And I think somewhere you mentioned that this, it is very much in line with what we put in our 2014 comprehensive plan, that the town will have a focus on its historic properties. Rich, anything you want to add? You've been involved. This has been in bits and spurts. So we have this attention on it, and then there's a few months.
Well, I actually have a question. One point in time, I brought up exploring a mechanism for accounting for Brian's time in exchange for the $30,000. Has there been any kind of movement there as far as?
Yeah, we thought for the first 2 years, it could just be a straightforward dollar amount, and Brian will keep track of his time. And it does spell out what we're expecting Brian to do for that amount of resources from the town. But it also includes, there might be auxiliary staff who get involved as well. So it's not just accounting for Brian.
Sure, yeah, I understand there definitely are some nuances, but I think just at some point in time, we just need to try to correlate the work to the compensation.
And if I may, yeah, we do have a scope of work for essentially everything we need to. It's something of a complicated process to go through the certified local government process of the CLG that involves the city and towns, local law, the respective local law and ordinance being reviewed, blessing by New York State Parks and Historic Preservation. And then from there, going through inventory of properties, we'd be looking for nomination of, hopefully we want like a top 10 list basically of where to start, especially with inventory, and start protecting those properties. And then Brian would complete information about nominating those. So we have a fairly robust scope of work to follow with this, and that does that compensation addresses. So happy to provide more info as we move forward. I think we may have already provided that maybe in an earlier memo. We keep getting more brief.
Other questions?
I have a question. How is it determined that there are 2 members of the commission from the town and 5 from the city?
Because we're not expecting, most of the properties will still be probably in the city. And the composition of the committee, sometimes it's more expertise. It doesn't matter. They're looking for, I think it spells it out, some qualifications that have to be covered, that the person doesn't even necessarily have to be in the city or the town.
Mhm.
So we thought it was, we spent some time talking about that. We thought it was a reasonable approach to start with. And by the way, that does mean at some point, we'll have to see who might be interested for this board to appoint as to commissioners. You may, some time has passed since we started this. There were 2 volunteers that came forward who did meet with ILPC members for a while to start thinking about some of the language. And it's possible that one or both of them might still be interested, but we'll figure out what that process looks like when we get to it.
Is it possible to revisit this in the future? Because it seems like the difference in population isn't in that ratio. And, you know, I don't know. It just seems like the town is so much bigger than the city. And I know they have more people, but not that many more. And do we really want, you know, people in the city making decisions on rural properties? And like 5 to 2 is just really overwhelming.
Yeah, with any law, there's, and Susan, we'll have to check the MOU. At what point, you know, we certainly fully expect there needs to be at least 2 years of us going through this process before we step back and review it. So we'll have to see what mechanism there might be for any tweaks down the road. Susan, do you want to say anything about that?
No.
Okay. Would that be in the MOU?
We certainly can add that and then have some mechanism to reopen, you know, any parts of the law, really. I mean, if for some reason agreement couldn't be reached, the MOU can be terminated on a year's notice and the town can rescind its law.
Okay, on 1 year's notice, we can rescind the law. It becomes.
Well, 1 year's notice to terminate the MOU with the city.
Okay,
And then after that, I mean, you probably could rescind your law earlier, but you still have to pay for the services that you wouldn't be getting if your law has been rescinded.
well, I'm in favor of historic preservation. I'm just wondering if the town could have its own board.
That gets very, we did consider that too. We felt we didn't really have the resources necessary to do that.
Okay,
So this seemed like a good option. We're also intending not, even though, as CJ noted, there's going to be a fairly heavy workload for Brian initially. We're not ready to suddenly start. There's a lot of prep work that we need to do, and investigative work for the first couple of years.
And I'd say to follow up on that is, you know, Sue Ritter's notes indicate something around about 60 hours a year of work. And so that work keeps being pending, has been essentially since Sue and everyone started working on this. I think it was back in, I want to say maybe 2019 or 2020. And so moving towards the adoption and then the local government application, basically getting the blessing from New York State Historic Preservation, and then identifying all those historic resources in the town. You know, we can think of a handful, you know, right off the top of our heads that we certainly would want to, you know, be mindful of. I can, you know, H Chapel, Oddfellows, these are all really special places that we certainly would want to protect from demolition. And this is one of the few ways that we have to do that. So, yeah, in any event, there's a lot of work to go into it. And the specialization in historic preservation is pretty niche in planning. So having the city support would be great.
okay.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I just also wanted to add that unlike some of our other intermunicipal entities, I don't see the town and city reps working across purposes here. They're pretty much all using the same criteria to evaluate properties in that. I don't think there are really financial implications that might make representation or proportional representation more important on a different body, say like SJC, for example, where there are many millions of dollars hanging in the balance of percentages and so forth. I think that the folks who are on this commission are more or less looking at properties using a set of criteria, and I don't think it really matters where the properties are located. At least that's my assumption, which is why I didn't push harder for different representation.
Comment on a different topic. I think it's great that one of the purposes here is to promote adaptive reuse and continued use of building elements and materials to reduce waste and capture embodied carbon. A handful of municipalities in New York State have adopted resolutions incentivizing deconstruction and reuse. I don't know if the town is one of them, but
It's on our list to fully address in the fourth quarter. Is that what we decided?
We would like to
amazing.
get going.
Yeah, so I would just, the word demolition appears 9 times in the document. It would be great if the word deconstruction appeared alongside it as an option, an alternative to demolition in some places. That's my suggestion.
Isn't reuse of buildings points on the, I think, a green energy code supplement?
I don't know about I don't know whether they have found it.
The Green Energy Code supplement, really the point system is only applicable till the end of this year. And then
For what?
The
Okay.
point system is only applicable till the end of this year.
Oh, is that
And then
right?
in 2026, it goes to basically a net zero aspect. So there won't be any.
Oh, there won't be any point system
Correct.
after this year. Okay.
Anything else? So again, this was just to start bringing it to your attention again. In the next month, I think you'll see the MOU. And we'll see when we're able to kick off the education outreach. Okay, moving on to number 5, authorization to accept New York State Department of Transportation use and occupancy permit conditions and designate the highway superintendent as an authorized rep. This has to do with the 2024 Inlet Valley Sewer Improvement Project related to Wonderland and Waldorf pump stations. The Waldorf pump station is at 855 Mile Drive, and that's within the New York State DOT right-of-way. So this resolution accepts the conditions of the permit and authorizes the highway superintendent to move forward. Joe, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'd like to add that Dave's been handling all that.
Oh,
stuff.
Dave, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Ask the questions too.
No, it's a needed permit for the project. Joe is named as the authorized individual as he'll be taking on maintenance responsibilities, have to renew the permit every year. Currently working with DOT to see if we can surplus the property, take ownership. So this permit would go away if they can do that. That's a pretty lengthy process. So to keep the project going, we're pursuing this permit.
So you get to create work for Joe, is that what this is?
It doesn't happen often.
Would someone like to move the resolution?
Move it.
Suzie, is there a second?
Second.
Is that Margaret? So questions, comments? All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. So here's the quiz. What does SAMRA? Don't look at your sheet. What does SAMRA mean? What does it stand for? This is just for board members. So anyway, the next resolution is, the title spells that out for you. Authorization for the supervisor to sign the stormwater operation, maintenance, and reporting agreement, SAMRA, related to easements associated with the Maple 2 development. No seeker. It's not subject to seeker. This would authorize the town supervisor to sign it, subject to review by the attorney and approval of the town engineer. So how close are we to needing to put this together for the development?
I've gone through the documents. Susan has them right now. More than likely we'll execute them, so they're out of the way. It's a condition to get a building permit. So they're trying to knock things off they can, so when they're ready to start building, they can then submit plans and codes can then issue the documents.
So would someone like to move resolution? I'll move it. Is there a second? Heard Margaret's voice. Any questions or comments? Not all those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Unanimous. Moving on to, so there's a memo from Hillary. This is about applying, putting in a CFA grant application for our town hall weatherization. And this would be through the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation and Historic Preservation, their Environmental Protection Fund. So the memo, outlines, obviously this building is a historic building. We've noted that preserving, enhancing, and promoting the town's historic resources is written in our comprehensive plan. So it's just a requirement that you have to approve this. And it's a type 2 action. Hillary and Dave have been working jointly on putting together the application. They're due July 31st, which suddenly starts to seem soon. We would be asking for the full amount that we can, $675,000. Would someone like to move?
I'll move.
Bob, is there a second?
Second.
Susie seconds. So questions or comments?
I have a question. This is very great if we could get 675,000 because the project is a multi-million-dollar project, right? But what is the pool of money available and how many people are competing for it?
Well,
And what are,
I don't know what the total amount is either. Does anyone know the total amount? You're just looking it up. You never know how many other people are applying. You can
Usually
assume
competitive.
that a lot.
do they do this every year? Is it an ongoing thing or is it a one-shot program, a one-time program?
No, every year,
So we could
generally
apply-
speaking.
We could keep applying if we get turned down this year.
That's right, and we have in the past with some projects.
Oh, we have, okay,
Funding available this year is up to 26 million.
okay.
And we did have a preliminary conversation with the regional grants administrator for New York State Parks, Recreation, Historic Preservation, and they indicated that it would be pretty competitive. Dave may have more to add on that, but yeah, it's typically a pretty competitive
Uh-huh.
pot of money.
Well, good. Hope we get it.
Other questions?
They funded 65 projects last year.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
They funded 65 projects last year. Just to give you a
65?
Flavor, yeah.
Any other questions? If not, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of submitting the grant application? Unanimous. By the way, this is after the fact, but we did submit another grant for the same purpose to NYSERDA earlier last week. And it was an unusual, it was for this, right? Or was it for?
It was for the mezzanine
Court mezzanine. So just after the fact, we want you to know that we submitted one for the court mezzanine project. There was no time to ask the board to allow us to do that because we still think it's a little different how the state is doing it, but they said they will consider the first 5 applications. We were the 6th, but we're hoping they really will review and that maybe some of those other applications
First come,
might
first
not be
served,
as
really.
worthy.
Yeah,
that's really
as
strange.
submitting, you should look into this, Margaret.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what it is.
cause what? Accept the first 5 no matter what?
Yeah, that's so messed up.
We hope that's not the case. And we were number 6. And it was the easiest application to submit that you can possibly imagine. And it was for, do you remember how much it was for?
600 and some thousand, I believe.
I mean, it was like a one-page. It was really simple. I think it took Hillary like 10 minutes to submit.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
heard it, yeah, we'll talk.
Okay. Okay, moving on to, where are we? Number 8. Did I miss one? So this is approval of a revised fee schedule. Just to make note of, it should be personal wireless service facility. And the fee schedule is, yeah, Rob is looking at it, so I know it's on your computers. I think the only change was just adding, is it a $5,000? For an escrow. Would someone like to move the resolution? Eric, is there a second?
Second.
Rich seconds. Any questions about? Yep.
Just briefly, the whereas in the resolution just references a recommendation by council, but doesn't really explain why the recommendation was made or provide any kind of history or anything to that effect. And I mean, I'm all for rubber stamping recommendations of council, but I would like a little bit more color.
Well, I had some informal discussions with staff. I didn't realize they were being memorialized as my recommendation only. But it used to be $5,000 for many years. And then at some point, based on recommendation of staff, the fee schedule decreased to $3,000 for the escrow. And that's just not sufficient. So I was saying we need to at least get it back to where it used to be, if not more, because I think it was decades at $5,000.
I'm not familiar with this whole process really. What kind of expenses or unforeseen eventualities are covered by the escrow? What are we covered?
If the town has to hire an expert to advise it on the application, it covers attorney fee time for reviewing the application. It covers, I'd have to just look back at the law to see that the law actually spells out exactly what all it covers. But I think those are the two main items that in the most recent application we had with Verizon, the escrow was tapped for. CJ, do you remember, were there other things besides attorneys fees to review the application and the expert fees, or was that it?
Engineering consultants, yeah, it gives some discretion essentially to the boards who need to be able to review a new tower.
Okay, I get the idea. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I have a question. Would it be worth thinking about increasing it if Susan, or we just want to get to 5 and see how we are?
Well, I think rather than picking a number, we need to be able to justify whatever number we have. So I think in the past, staff had done the work to justify the 5,000. So I'm very comfortable having it go back to that. But to have it go higher, I think staff would need to do some work to see what are the actual typical costs to the town of these applications. There's some case law that prevents the town from just having it be very open-ended, and you have to really justify the number that's in your law for the, yeah.
Great.
So.
Any other questions about this? If not, if we're ready to vote, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Unanimous. Consent agenda, would someone like to move the consent agenda? Rich, is there a second?
Second.
Pam? All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
All
Unanimous. A couple of reports. So I sent around that there's going to be this event in October 20th through the 22nd. Says Tompkins County to host a Government Alliance on Race and Equity meeting. So if somebody's interested in attending, let me know. I think they only had a certain number of spots available, so If somebody's interested, we should. So if this doesn't ring any bells, let me know and I'll send it to you.
Are you planning to?
I'm probably not, but I don't know. I was waiting to see who else.
If you, yeah, you need. We can talk.
So there's that. Some of us attended the opening of the East Hill Fire Station late in June. So it's there will be a more formal open house for the public sometime this fall. So some of you might be interested. Lawsuit updates. ZBA members are going to Syracuse on August 25th. I believe I have the date right. So you'll be part of some mediation. The firm that we hired is working with both Verizon and us. So stay tuned to see what happens on August 25th. And then, Susan, are you able to provide an update on the other lawsuits?
The town filed a motion to dismiss for lack of personal jurisdiction because they failed to serve the town properly. That is going to be heard on July 18th, I think this Friday. So stay tuned. I'll let you know what the judge does.
Okay. Other updates from board members or department heads?
I could say that I went to a presentation today from the county administrator for
You went to the chamber event?
I did. I go to the government and they bring nonprofits in. So I go as a library representative, but also there's someone from the town for the government and community roundtable from the Chamber of Commerce. And it was interesting that they're adding a third flight into Ithaca, and it's the ins and outs of having that happen. And the county has actually they're helping to guarantee a certain fee rate that they're going to make, the Delta is going to make a certain amount of money each month off this plane, whether it's booked or not. They're going to offset the money from that. Apparently they've done this before and the money's never actually been used. So it was interesting conversation and they're on their budget. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
And they talked a lot about Airbnb and VRBOs and how they collect those room tax fees and how they make sure that people are actually signing up their Airbnb up and they're actually properly paying their sales tax and their room tax. And it sounds like the county is really looking, and the city of Ithaca, as we are too, how to pay attention to that. And so sort of more of a commiseration than any answers, but it was an interesting conversation.
Great. I'm glad you were able to.
Yeah.
Other updates like that?
Just like to announce on our main page is the public information session tomorrow. We're hosting along with the city of Ithaca and Tompkins County a flood insurance session. So folks can come in and ask about flood insurance. It's tomorrow night, so Tuesday, July 15th at 6 p.m. right here in this room.
And there's also a Zoom possibility.
Yes, of course, and thanks to Rod's reminders, there is definitely a virtual option.
Two people from Fall Creek tell me they were coming, so
Oh,
very
great.
good.
I'm sure it'll be well attended.
Yeah.
There's going to be refreshments. I hear cookies, the minimum, so that's exciting.
Excellent. Very
Um,
good. Well, I'm glad we're hosting that.
Yeah. Anything else like that? If not, we will end the meeting at 6:02. Everyone have a great